Hello and good evening, Chicago. Welcome on back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Karnick. I am so excited to be here with you guys tonight. What a weekend we had, huh? 4 NFL playoff games, 4 walk-off wins. This might have been the best weekend the NFL has ever had as far as games go. My goodness, what a weekend. If only the Bears could have been part of something like that, right? Well, we will discuss that. There was, of course, in all great weekends, there was great controversy. The NFL's overtime rule reared up yet again. We will be discussing that. I've got some strong thoughts and opinions on the NFL's overtime rule. We'll also just look at what are the Bears doing? Are they dragging their feet, taking so long in hiring a general manager and head coach? Here we are in January 24th, and we're right back where we were when this all started a few weeks ago. We will check in on that. And then the Bulls. They're playing tonight in Oklahoma City. We will keep an eye on that. But more importantly, they may have their new rival in the Milwaukee Bucks. We will be discussing how that game went down, and more importantly, what caused that rivalry to possibly blossom. All that and more. This is Chi-Town Weekly. Buckle on up. Let's have some fun. And once again, welcome into Chi-Town Weekly. I am your host, Adam Karnick. I am so glad that you are here, taking time out of your week, your night, wherever it may be, to talk sports with us here in the best sports city in the U.S. Bar none, hands down. There we go. Got a lot on the show for you tonight. Of course, we're going to be talking about the Bears and their continuing search for a new general manager and a new head coach. Might we have some actual news to talk about that up here coming soon? I hope so. I think so at this point. So we will be getting everybody caught up there. Also, just looking at the games that went on this weekend. My goodness sake. The NFL put on a terrific slate of games for us this past weekend. We will be enjoying those. Of course, an overtime game, some walk-offs, and possibly the best one of all, the Packers are gone. We will be enjoying that as much as we possibly can. And then also diving in and checking in on the Bulls, but talking about things going on over there at United Center and everything going on with the Bulls at large. The Grayson Allen hit on Alex Caruso is going to be one that I think not only are we going to be talking about on this show tonight and for the next several weeks as a sports fan collective, I think that's going to be I think that has the potential to start a new rivalry for the Bulls, so we will get into all that. So lots to do tonight, lots to get into. Let's get going. And, of course, before we go any further, we've got to acknowledge our sponsors, starting with the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. Find them on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, or go to Facebook and search Southern California Warriors. And Background Check International. Businesses, are you looking to background check a new hire on? Let Kit Fremen take care of that for you. Kit founded and has managed Background Check International since 1994, and he's here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him help make the hiring process that much easier. This business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crimes, such as identity theft or any other illegal activity. Go to their website, bcint.com, or find them on Facebook, Background Check International-BCI. And IE Sports Radio, we are available on all the major social media platforms. Just search IE Sports Radio, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. It all gets you to the same spot. And also, please be sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com. While you're there, you can learn about each of the shows that we have. We're at about 30 shows right now. We've had some changes in the network here the last couple of weeks. We're at right around 30 shows right now. You can learn about each of those shows and the hosts of those different shows, different personalities here at the station. You can also learn about our fan of the month, currently Jim. He is the January fan of the month. He's a Steelers fan. You can learn some things about him. You know, also just the opportunity there's a link to our Patreon page. Please, if you are at all able, please consider supporting us on Patreon. We would greatly appreciate it, like at MLOS Great or at Bay Area Raised, for helping us out and continuing to help us grow and expand. And it's not just money that comes to us. It also, you get things out of it for supporting us on Patreon. You get called out on all of our shows with a thank you. Higher tiers include access to our IE Sports Radio merchandise. Angela does a great job of putting ornaments together for the holiday times, where we've got hoodies, t-shirts, ball caps. If you're like me and lacking some hair on top of your head, a ball cap can be a wonderful thing to add to the collection at all times. You also get access to things like our podcasting university, or even a chance to get featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment with Larry B. So please, if you are at all able, consider supporting us on Patreon. Thank you so very, very much for all that you guys do, and just remember that IE Sports Radio, we are your direct feed for all that is sports. All right. So let's dive in. Oh, and if you are listening live, of course, you can follow along with this show at IESRC on Twitter, or my personal Twitter feed is at Adam_Karnick. And if you are listening live here tonight on Monday night in Spreaker, feel free to create your own username. You can log in and interact with the show that way. Join the chat. Taryn and Marcus are in there tonight. Good evening, gentlemen. We hope to have a fun show, and the big talk already is that Alex Caruso hit from over the weekend, Grayson Allen of the Bucks. If you haven't seen it, we'll talk about the Bulls a little bit more in depth later on in the show, but do yourself a favor. If you have not seen the hit that Alex Caruso took from Grayson Allen last week, it was brutal. It was dirty. Grayson Allen got suspended. He did not get suspended nearly enough. One game was not nearly enough to make up for that hit, which is going to knock Caruso out for at least 6 weeks, possibly the next 2 months. He will be out. Allen literally grabbed him out of midair and threw him to the court. A dirty play, to say the least. So that's got Taryn and Marcus hopping in the chat room already. We will be discussing the Bulls and that hit. I think that there's the ingredients there for a new rivalry, as the Bulls are rejoining relevance once again into the NBA and getting out of the cellars of the Eastern Conference. We will discuss that tonight. But first, I wanted to talk about the NFL. Wow, what a weekend the NFL put together for us. 4 games, all 4 games got decided on the final play. 3 of them were game-winning field goals as time expired. 3 road teams won in the divisional round. Had all 4 road teams won, that would have been a first. I've got to believe that this was a first for 3 road teams winning in the divisional round. I certainly couldn't remember a year where 3 road teams won in the divisional round, because for years, the importance of the divisional round was for years and years and years, it was the top 2 seeds in each conference got a bye straight to the divisional round. So they were not only playing at home, they were playing on an extra week's rest that the road team didn't have that luxury, wasn't afforded that opportunity. They had to earn their way into the divisional round by winning in the wild card round. So it just helped the home team to have even greater success. So to see 3 road teams win over the weekend was impressive, to say the least. I loved it too that right away on Saturday we saw both 1 seeds go down. I had to laugh. I had to chuckle. I'm still a fan of this new expanded playoffs that the NFL does, where only the 1 seed gets a bye into the divisional round, and we now have 7 teams in each conference making it in. I understand and sympathize with the argument of the 7th seed, at least here in the first 2 years, really hasn't looked all that much like a playoff team in the early going. I sympathize with that argument. I understand that argument. But I really like that only the 1 seed earns the bye. But one of the complaints I heard from notable people, from people who certainly are more in touch and more knowledgeable about the game than I am, were arguing that, oh no, you're just setting up the Super Bowl to be nothing but 1 seeds going forward, that's all it's going to be, because you look at the math and you look at the numbers, how it's been for the last decade plus. The Super Bowl has always been between 2 teams that had a bye straight to the divisional round. That you haven't had a wild card team make it to the Super Bowl in forever. Oh my goodness, this is going to be terrible for the game. Last year, we had Tampa Bay not only make it to the Super Bowl as a wild card team, they won it. And now this year, we are guaranteed that there will be 2 wild card teams playing in the Super Bowl. So to everybody that was whining and crying about how this new format was going to be awful for the game, that's what I say to you. I love it. You're making the teams earn their way to the Super Bowl. I would never have picked this to be the Final Four. And in fact, we did our radio picks on Saturday, right before all the games kicked off. For the first time, I didn't get a single game right. I went 0-4. So I am out of whatever might be left. I have one of my preseason picks is still alive. The Rams are still alive. I way back in September did pick them to lose in the Super Bowl. Now I have no idea at this point. The Bengals just keep surprising the heck out of me. Joe Burrow has grown and matured and just blossomed in ways that I would not have guessed. Usually when you've got a young kid quarterback starting in the playoffs for the first time, they lose that first game. At most, they only win 1 playoff game. You've had Joe Burrow now in his first playoff experience. He's won 2 playoff games. The Bengals won for the first time on the road pretty much since I've been alive. It was 88 was the last time the Bengals won on the road in the playoffs. I didn't see that coming. I do want to take a closer look. I'm not ready to do it tonight, but I do want to take a closer look at Joe Burrow at his rookie year and kind of compare it to Justin Fields. I want to think that the numbers are going to be kind of favorable and kind of comparable there. That I'd love to see kind of a Joe Burrow like growth from Justin Fields as we get into year 2. Of course, we got to get a general manager and a head coach first. Got to figure out where that's going to be. But I'd love to see that kind of result and growth out of Justin Fields from year as we get into year 2. Of course, at the same time, Well, there's lots to go into there. I need to make sure that I need to do some proper reading on it first before we dive too much into that. I don't want to misspeak on some things there. And you had the overtime game between the Bills and the Chiefs. My goodness, what a back and forth affair going on there with Mahomes and Allen. Just neither one was refusing to let go of that game. 25 points scored in the final 2 minutes. My goodness, just back and forth all up and down the field. And then you had the Rams and the Bucks go back and forth earlier in the day where the Buccaneers tied it late, and then the Rams out of nowhere. Matthew Stafford, my good, you got him out of Detroit, and look at what he's been able to do this year. I was reminded just when I got home tonight that Matthew Stafford now has 2 playoff wins. That's twice as many playoff wins as the Detroit Lions franchise. You know, in the Super Bowl era, the Detroit Lions only have 1 playoff win. You get Stafford out of Detroit, and suddenly, you know, he's a win away from the Super Bowl. But then the game of the weekend, of course, was Niners-Packers. For Chicago fans, for us here, it was that Niners-Packers game. I went into that game resigned to the Niners were going to lose. Yes, the Niners have a strong running game. And yes, the Packers defense was weak against the run. And yes, the Packers special teams isn't great. But it's Aaron Rodgers. It's in Lambeau. It's Jimmy Garoppolo for the San Francisco 49ers. I was expecting that, all right, we're going to see the Packers do what the Packers do and get into the NFC title game. I expected the choke to come next week. But then the Packers couldn't move the ball. Aaron Rodgers gave up throwing to anybody that wasn't named Devontae Adams. It didn't matter how wide open they were. The Packers' special teams just imploded on themselves. It was a beautiful sight. And then to have ex-Bear Robbie Gould put the Packers away and end their season, that was particularly special. Sam Fells of Deadspin wrote a great article that I was planning on doing this anyway. He pointed out that, yeah, we know it's petty here in Chicago. We absolutely know it's petty that we cheer just as hard for a Green Bay loss as we do for a Chicago win. That we know that in all reality, we're cheering. We only are cheering for this because we don't have anything good to cheer for with our own team. You know, is it petty? Absolutely. Is it childish? Yes. Is it probably fairly small of us as a fan base to just cheer on the misery of Green Bay? Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to own that. Absolutely. But man, does it feel good. It feels so good to see those guys collapse like that. Just absolutely fall apart at the seams. And then for Aaron Rodgers to look around and have no idea, how did this happen? Well, it can't be my fault. It's got to be somebody else's fault. God knows Aaron Rodgers never makes a mistake. And then to have the team, well, now, you know, this was supposed to be their last dance. This was supposed to be their 96 Bulls season. Didn't even win a playoff game. It just warms my heart that the Packers yet again figured out a way to squander a 13-win season and absolutely blow it. This time they didn't even make it to the NFC title game before figuring out ways to blow it and lose it. They just got it done right out of the gate. It was wonderful. Oh, and here's Gina hopping into the chat. She handles, of course, our Northern California show. She is a big Niners fan. Gina, I was rooting for your team so hard. I am so glad that you guys have Robbie Gould. It was so appropriate that of all the kickers to put the Packers out, that it was Robbie Gould, the ex-Bear. It was a beautiful sight to see set up. I was absolutely loving it, here for it, enjoying every second of it. And I expect now that we're going to have an off season of that, of just enjoying the Packers' misery, because I think everything that happened last off season, I think is going to happen again. That he's going to go and complain to the team about how he doesn't have enough control, and, oh, if only they'd let him pick out all the players, and, oh, if they'd only just cater to his every wish and will, and and then they'll trade him away to some AFC team, and he'll realize that he never had it so good, and the Packers will realize that they never had it so good. And it will open things wide up in the NFC North, and it will be beautiful. It'll be almost as exciting as when the Bears actually get around to hiring a general manager and hiring a head coach. Now, I have heard some people, mostly on Facebook, a little bit on Twitter, but mainly on Facebook, being upset with the lack of pace that the Bears have shown in hiring their general manager and their head coach, which they're still doing it simultaneously. I completely disagree with that. I would be focusing all my efforts on the general manager and then letting that general manager hire the head coach. We've talked about that before. There's no need to bring it back up. I'm still not feeling the panic, though, that they've got to make a decision. They've got to make a decision. Because at this point, there's only one opening that's been filled. The Giants signed Joe Shane to be their general manager. And yes, that was somebody that the Bears were interested in, and somebody that I think would have been a very appropriate candidate, a very fine candidate for the Bears opening. He went to the Giants. All right. You could make the argument that the Bears' job is better. You could make the argument that the Giants' job is better. He struck while the iron is hot. He took the Giants. But there's still nobody else is signed. There haven't been any new head coaches signed yet. And there's still only that one general manager spot that's been filled out of the, there's now at least 3 general manager openings. I think there's a 4th off the top of my head. I don't remember. Bears, Vikings, and Raiders for sure. And I think the Giants were one, and then I think there's one more yet out there. But nobody's rushing. Nobody's racing right out. So I'm not as concerned with it yet. Take your time. They interviewed another candidate today. They've got another candidate lined up for tomorrow. They are bringing some people back for some second interviews. Ryan Poles of the Chiefs is going to be getting a second interview for the general manager job. They are bringing in they have narrowed down the head coaching list too. We're down to 3 finalists. Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator from the Colts. Jim Caldwell, former head coach of both the Colts and the Lions, is on that list. And of course I forgot the third name, another defensive Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys and former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. So they are narrowing things down. They are making progress. And I think by this time next week, I think we will see a hire happen. With so many quality guys, names like Brian Daboll from Buffalo, who got eliminated this weekend, or Byron Leftwich from Tampa Bay, who the offensive coordinator there, who got eliminated this weekend. I think you're going to see some hiring start to happen now this week. That there were teams that were just waiting to see how the dominoes fell from this round of playoffs, and I think you'll see some hirings happen this week. So I think by this time next week we will have some hirings to talk about in the NFL. One thing from the NFL that we can talk about now is the overtime rule. A lot of controversy from that over the weekend because of the way the Chiefs-Bills game ended. I've got some thoughts on that overtime rule. I will share those with you on the other side of this break. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. I am your host, Adam Karnick. We will be right back right after this.
What's up, sports fans? Are you looking for the latest on Northern California sports? Then take a trip out west with me, your host, Gina G, on Reppin' to NorCal Sports, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'll be bringing it to you all the way live every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And it's always a packed show. I'll bring you everything Dynastic 49ers, the bite of the San Jose Sharks, torture of the San Francisco Giants, the Golden State Warriors that we still believe. Then take you across the bay to the rise and grind of the Oakland A's. I've got you covered on college ball from the Cal Bears to the Stanford Cardinal, so that no matter what, reppin' in NorCal Sports is always reppin' the Bay. So if you bleed red and gold, or you're looking to keep an eye out west in them thar hills, don't miss me, Gina G, on reppin' in NorCal Sports. Catch me every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and I'll have your fandom repped harder than a trio of defenders guarding Stephen Curry before his buzzer beater is Gucci.
Motorsports takes many forms, and there's one show on IE Sports Radio that's ready to cover it all.
I sure hope you're talking about you and I, Daryl, because I know the Extra Mile is the best place to go for everything motorsports related.
Yes, it is, from NASCAR to IndyCar to sports cars to everything in between. IE Sports Radio has everything covered for the fastest sport in the world.
Plus, don't forget all of our random shenanigans along the way.
That's right, Caitlin. So for plenty of motorsports coverage and plenty of Caitlinisms, check out the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio with Daryl Kinsey Jr. and Caitlin Seen, Thursdays at 8 p.m.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is going on, everybody? This is Ben Matello, the host of the Yinza Report, right here on IE Sports Radio. I'm bringing you the latest in the Steel City, the City of Champions, from the Steelers, the Penguins, the Pirates, as well as the college game with both Penn State and Pitt. You could join me every Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, where I'll be talking about everything from the Steel City, the City of Champions, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly, everybody, here on IE Sports Radio. I am your host, Adam Kurdick, here with you for about another 25 minutes or so before Taryn Rodriguez takes over with Set Point, talking things volleyball tonight. A quick peek over into the Bulls. They just finished the first quarter down in Oklahoma City. Bulls are up 35-27 at the end of the first. Ayo Dosunmu, 4 for 4 from the field for the young rookie tonight. 10 points at the end of the first. Zach LaVine was 7 points in his first game back. Javonte Green with 2 points in his first game back as well. In case you hadn't heard, DeMar DeRozan has the night off just for rest reasons. We'll be getting a little bit into the Bulls a little bit later on. I teased right before that break, though, that I wanted to talk about the NFL overtime rules. It came up, of course, last night during the Bills and Chiefs game when the Chiefs got the ball, won the coin toss, got the ball, drove down, scored a touchdown, ball game over. And, of course, Twitter, Facebook, social media, everybody ranting and railing against the rule that, the Bills should have been offered an opportunity to get the ball. It's not fair. That it's not fair to the two teams that if you win the coin toss, you win the coin toss, you're just guaranteed to win the game. Defense is still allowed in the NFL, right? It is still legal to stop a team, right? One of the first thoughts that came into my mind when everybody was railing about this is one of the things people didn't like about the Arena League. Remember the old Arena League, the indoor, basically they played football on something the size of a basketball court or an oversized hockey rink, a little bit, 50 yards from front of the end zone to front of the end zone. The end zones themselves are only about 7 yards deep as opposed to 10 yards deep. The walls were inbounds. It was a ton of fun. It was really cool. Chicago had a team, the Chicago Rush. I was a fan of the Grand Rapids Rampage in Michigan growing up. And it was a fun league. But one of the main complaints that I heard from fans about the Arena League was, you just know that everybody's going to score a touchdown. And every time they touch it, it's just a matter of, when is the stop going to actually happen? Because at some point, somebody's going to actually get that one stop and there we go. That'll decide the game. So it's boring when everybody always scores a touchdown. We're getting to that point now with the NFL where you get to overtime. And it's just assumed, the first team that gets the ball, they're going to just go down and score. When the heck did it become illegal to even consider that the defense might make a stop? You're still allowed to make a stop on defense. I get where people are coming from with the argument that you have a coin toss, and then the winner of that coin toss, if they score a touchdown, it's over, it's done with. And this terrific game, I saw Anthony Herron talk about this on Twitter, where former NFL player Anthony Herron talk about this on Twitter, where it was, we've been watching this exciting game for 60 minutes, and then just like that, it's done. And it's hard to just process that the game is done like that. A colleague of mine, a coworker of mine, and I, we were talking about this today at work, and he, of course, was coming at it that, everybody should be allowed to have the ball at least once. And he actually even then found an article on CBS Sports. I had him share it with me because I definitely wanted to make sure I reference it properly. John John Breach of CBS Sports wrote an article where he proposed 3 separate rule changes to overtime, and each one is just ridiculous. There's a spot and choose rule. This is one that apparently the Ravens brought up last year, where you have the coin toss. You have a team. The first team decides, where is the ball? Where's the ball going to get placed to start? Could you say, it's going to start at the offense's 10-yard line. They're going to be 90 yards away. And then the other team gets to decide, okay, do you want the ball or do you want the other team to get the ball then? And then it's just sudden death. Well, that's still sudden death. That's the same thing. You're just taking the coin toss out of the equation, but it's still potentially the first team that has the ball wins the game. Then the second is the spot and, that was the first one, the spot and choose rule. Then you have the field goal gamble, where instead of having a coin toss, you have the home team pick a spot on the field to kick a field goal, and then the road team decides if it wants to kick it or if it wants the home team to kick it, and then they kick the field goal, and if he makes it, then that team gets to actually possess the ball in overtime, or if he misses it, then the other team gets to possess the ball in overtime, and then you do sudden death. It'll take 20 minutes just to decide who the hell gets the ball first. By the time they actually start playing football again, half the crowd's left because they're bored to tears at that point. Nobody knows what's going on. And then you're still left with, it's sudden death. There's no guarantee that the second team will get the ball. And then the third proposal was just both teams get the ball for a possession. Well, that just delays the inevitable. If the Chiefs went down and scored a touchdown last night. Then the Bills, they get their possession, they drive down and score a touchdown. Then the Chiefs come back and score a touchdown. Ball game over. Well, the Bills didn't get a chance to answer. That's the whole complaint, right? Is that the Bills don't get a chance to answer last night? So I think ultimately what it comes down to is people that have a problem with the NFL's overtime, ultimately the problem is they don't like that it's sudden death. So fine, you don't like it sudden death, just make it a quarter. Make it a full quarter. You play 15 minutes of football or 10 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you want it to be. You just play a quarter. And if it's still tied at the end of that quarter, then you play another quarter if it's a playoff game. If it's a regular season game, it would end in a tie. But just play out a fifth quarter if you have a problem with it. That, to me, that's the only solution that works. And mind you, I don't have a problem with it being sudden death. I like that it's sudden death, that it's first team to score wins. I didn't have a problem with it when it was a field goal was enough to win it. Now that it's a touchdown, a field goal is kind of good enough. Just makes it more confusing. I mean, players still get confused by the fact that the game can end in a tie, even though that's been the case for literally 100 years. That a game can end in a tie. It just doesn't happen very often. So if you have a problem with the NFL's overtime rules, do away with the sudden death. That's the simplest, easiest, most elegant solution. Just do away with the sudden death aspect of it. Play a fifth quarter. And if it's still tied, play a sixth quarter. And if it's still tied, play a seventh quarter. Eventually the game will end. It has to end. It's a requirement. The game must end. Football, they like the sudden death nature of it because the players are literally putting themselves in a car accident on every single play. That was one of the things we talked about, in comparison to hockey, where hockey, especially in the playoffs, they play a 20-minute period. And you sometimes wind up with 2 or 3 of these overtime periods before the game finally gets decided. And it was, why is that okay for hockey players and it's not okay for football players? It's because even though hockey players are getting hit, the hits don't happen all the time. On football, you literally have 9 guys smacking into each other on purpose on every play. 5 on the offensive line, 4 on the defensive line. They want the game to get over with. I don't begrudge them that the players, by and large, in general, as a whole, want to get overtime over with so that they can be done before they get hurt. I don't begrudge them that one bit. So, all right, I just wanted to rant on that for a couple of minutes here. We are going to take one more quick break, and then we have got to talk about the Bulls. A little bit of a losing skid that they are on right now, but they have a new rivalry set up for themselves. Yes, the Bucks are the defending NBA champions, and yes, until they get dethroned, they're still the team to beat in the East. But that's not necessarily why I think that they have found themselves a new enemy in the Eastern Conference in the Central Division specifically. We will talk about the Bulls on the other side of a break. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. I am Adam Karnick. We will be right back after this.
Shores of the Puget Sound to the rushing waters of the Columbia River, stretching across the Great Cascades, and on IE Sports Radio lives the Northwest Territory Sports Show, hosted by me, Brad Buckingham. On this show, I cover all the great collegiate and professional sport teams that we have here in the Pacific Northwest. Of course, I'm talking about the Seattle Seahawks, Seattle Mariners, Sounders, and even the Seattle Kraken. But I can't forget all of that is good in Oregon either. I got the Trailblazers, the Oregon Ducks, the Beavers, even the Timbers, and much, much more. You can listen to the show every Sunday from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern, noon to 1 p.m. Pacific on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pop culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And, of course, you can catch Taryn Rodriguez's Set Point right after us here tonight. Welcome back in. This is Adam Kernick on Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Gonna just a few more minutes here before we call it a night and pass the baton on over to Taryn Rodriguez and Set Point. So the Bulls are just about 5.5 minutes left to go in the first half. They are currently beating the Oklahoma City Thunder 46-35. Zach LaVine and Javonte Green are back in the lineup tonight. Very much needed for the Bulls. DeMar DeRozan is then getting the night off. But the Bulls, we found out last week was rough for the Bulls. Lonzo Ball is going to have surgery later this week to repair his injured knee. He is going to miss 6 to 8 weeks while he's having that knee worked on. And then Alex Caruso is also going to miss 6 to 8 weeks while he recovers from a wrist injury he sustained last week against the Milwaukee Bucks. Grayson Allen, again, in case you missed it, somehow Grayson Allen caught Alex Caruso midair, threw him to the court, and Caruso damaged his wrist. He did finish out the game. He thought at first that he was just fine, that he managed to avoid injury, but then sure enough, he has a damaged wrist. He will miss 6 to 8 weeks, Allen, for his part, has been suspended 1 game by the NBA. The Bucks have come out in defense of Allen. They can't believe how he would be suspended for that. They completely support him. Never mind that Allen has a history of doing things like this and getting suspended and getting trouble for going above and beyond when it comes to effort. Looking at the box score right now for tonight, Ayo Dosunmu, my goodness, what a first half he is having. 6 for 6 from the field, including 2 for 2 from three-point range. He's got 14 points on the night. I'm still just amazed that Ayo was available in the second round for the Bulls. That's just, there's going to be some general managers that are going to possibly going to lose their job because they allowed a talent like Ayo to fall into the second round where the Bulls could grab him. But I'm glad he's with the Bulls. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that everybody made that mistake and the Bulls were able to get him. So I also do a show on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock Central with my buddy Zach Puplis. We do the Neutral Zone where we talk all things hockey. And on a fairly early episode we were talking about the Seattle Kraken, the expansion team in the NHL. And Zach brought up some of the key ingredients for having a successful rivalry in sports. And, of course, there's some things like geography, how close you are in proximity to one another, meeting in the playoffs, things like that. But one of the things that he brought up was that there needs to be some kind of controversy. Something has to have happened to stir up the bad blood. And I think, I feel like the Grayson Allen foul on Alex Caruso is that thing for the Bulls and the Bucks. I would not be surprised in the slightest if that turns into a thing. The Bulls and the Bucks, amazingly, they made it all the way halfway through the season before they played each other. They don't play each other again until March 4th. It's possible that Caruso could be back for that game. I kind of doubt it. I think Lonzo won't be back for that one yet either. But I feel like that game is going to be at the United Center. That crowd is going to be rocking. They are going to be out for it that night against the Bucks. I think that there is a new rivalry in the Central Division, and it is the Bucks and the Bulls. Obviously, the Bulls had to actually start being good and being a professional basketball team again in order to set that up. But I think it's there. I think the ingredients are there. Watch out. March 4th, the Milwaukee Bucks come to town to take on the Bulls. I think the United Center is going to be electric for that game, and I think that the Bucks better watch themselves in that one. I wouldn't be surprised if things get heated. We've seen NBA games go kind of crazy before. Of course, the Malice at the Palace in Detroit a few years ago. We've seen teams go after each other. I wouldn't be surprised if something happens between the Bulls and the Bucks that night. I think we've got a rivalry brewing here. I'm for it. I don't know if the Bulls are quite there yet to overtake them for the Eastern Conference, but I think going forward for the next couple of seasons, they are going to be good rivals. It'll be something to watch out for sure. All right, that will do it for our show tonight. Want to say thank you, of course, to our sponsors, the Southern California Warriors and Background Check International, for continuing to sponsor not just this show, but all the awesome, fantastic shows we've got here on the network. Want to thank Larry B. for everything he does and keeping the network going, keeping us all on our toes and sharp and up to date with everything. Thank you to Taryn and to Gina and to Marcus for hanging out with me in the chat room tonight. Really appreciate it. Be sure to stick around right after we are done. Taryn is going live with another episode of Set Point, talking all things volleyball. He gave me a quick update. He's going to be talking a little bit about Loyola of Chicago tonight, because Taryn's alma mater swept Loyola over the weekend. So I guess he's got to acknowledge that, I suppose. And then one quick kudos before we get out of here tonight. I saw it over the weekend. Some college basketball talk. Congratulations to Mackenzie Sylvie. She became the all-time leading scorer at Southern Illinois University. So congratulations to Mackenzie on that accomplishment for the Huskies. All right, that'll do it for us. We'll see you next week, everybody.